I'm Doug Flutie, and you're watching the Jboy Show.
Welcome to the Jboy Show, hosted by Jake Crain, the fastest growing sports show in the nation.
I'm Coach Hugh Freeze.
This is Super Bowl champion Brandon Graham.
Hey, this is DJ Shockley, and you're watching.
And thanks for watching the Jboy Show.
Welcome to it. I appreciate you guys hopping in for another edition of the Jboy Show. We've got Doug Flutie in the house. Let me say that again. We've got Doug Flutie in the house. You guys are going to love this conversation. We talk about not only quarterback play, short quarterback play, but he gives you a story from the Hail Mary that nobody knows. That is, number one, crazy to think about, but also hilarious. Doug is fantastic. For you football junkies, we're just going to keep giving you this content. I mean, it is absolutely delicious. A little scheme mixed with some stories that you haven't heard, and just a good time. And you'll jump in the conversation. I'm going to get to my monologue in a second, but first, shout out betonline.ag. Head over there today. If you sign up, mobile, laptop, desktop, doesn't matter. You get a welcome bonus of 50%. So go do that now. They've got the Olympics going on. We've got Major League Baseball going on. We've got football coming up. They have everything you want to bet on. They will grind it out. They'll play it early. They'll play the sharps. They're not going to wait. They do a really good job over there. That's betonline.ag. Head over there today and tell them the Jboy sent you. My monologue today is something that when I was in the coaching world, and it's a perfect segue into Doug Flutie, defensively against Hail Marys, that absolutely drives me crazy. Don't rush three when they are throwing the Hail Mary. Don't do it. And for some reason, people still do it. Because here it is. And you think, oh, well, if we rush three, we can keep another guy back, this, that, and the other. Most Hail Marys work why? How many Hail Marys really have been thrown from the pocket and been completed and worked? Not a lot. How are most of them done? Well, we're going to roll out. Well, they're rushing three, so they're not going to keep us in the pocket because when we roll, it gives time for what? The receivers to get downfield, which gives you time to just throw it up. And if they happen to catch it on a tip or something crazy, playing jackpot, 500, whatever you want to call it, they're in the end zone. But when you rush forward and you say, we are going to keep this guy in the pocket, typically they don't have time to get all the way down there. And they can only double one guy. Now, some teams will go max pro. You'll hear Doug Flutie talk about it. They kept a tight end and a running back in. But it's a whole hell of a lot easier for 7 guys to block 3 than it is for 7 guys to block 4. But you also keep them in the pocket. It makes it easier to keep him in the pocket. And when you do that, it screws everything up for him. And yet, you will see this year, you will see a Hail Mary completed because somebody rushed 3 and it gave them time to roll out and launch one. You'll probably see it week 1. It drives me nuts. Don't do it. Hell, you keep him in the pocket, you got a chance to bat the ball down. And it throws off their whatever they want to call it. Because when you work it during practice, even day before the game, you work your victory, take a knee, prevent on defense, which rushing 3 prevents you from winning. I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys that. Surprise, surprise. That's the toy in the Lucky Charms box there. Just don't rush 3. Rush 4. And watch. And I think a lot of defensive guys will agree with me. There'll be some that'll say, no, rush 3. Go back and look at it. How many Hail Marys have been completed when you rush 4? How many? I guarantee you it's a whole hell of a lot lesser percentage than if you rush 4. And I hate to get on the soapbox, but just rush 4, guys. Just rush 4. Look at me. Look at me. Rush 4. Please don't rush 3. Please rush 4. Let's get Doug Flutie in here. Rush 4. Win the water cooler. All right, everybody, let's hop into the interview section of today's show. And if you're watching and you can see the other screen, this man needs no introduction. Legendary quarterback, college, played in the NFL. He's got a podcast, Flutie's Flakecast, on Sirius XM. He's had Tebow, Favre, all these guys. That is the illustrious Doug Flutie. Doug, I really appreciate you coming on, man.
No, my pleasure. A lot of fun. Always love talking football.
Definitely. And I want to start at the quarterback position because I want to ask you about the play, the Hail Mary, which I'm sure you've explained probably 10 million times. I'm going to ask you for a 10 million and first time.
What play was that?
I'm trying to remember it now. It's kind of, it's one of the most famous plays ever. But, playing the quarterback position. And, there's different size guys, different guys with athleticism, in different areas. But what is your overarching view on what makes a quarterback, just from a good quarterback, from a mental standpoint?
The thing that sets guys apart, I think number one is your preparation, that mental aspect of the game. That's the part of the game that is the big variable. Everybody can throw the football. Today, there's this percentage of guys that are just tremendous athletes as well. The bottom line is you've got to be able to throw the football. You have to be able to win from the pocket. So you need to understand coverage, front, blitzes, checking your pass protections, and getting you in a position to be successful. Then you can let your athleticism take over, your arm or your decision-making take over. Something that Tom Brady has done year after year is put his offensive line in a position to pass protect or decide when the ball is going to be out quickly and when it has to be and try to block everything up. And that part of the game, the average fan really doesn't understand, I don't believe. I mean, there's 1,000 guys out there with stronger arms. I've seen guys in Canada that were our third, fourth string guy that just had cannons. It's not about your arm. It's not about just being a pure athlete. The ability to be disciplined week after week and prepare, that's a mental toughness that a few guys have.
Yeah, and it's funny. You look back on your career and the way that offense, keeps evolving and defense keeps catching up. I always say it's cyclical. We'll probably be running the wing T 50 years from now. You know how it goes. But when you look at the offenses nowadays, spreading it out really fits your style. Not that your style wasn't balling when you were playing, but when you look now at the landscape of these spread offenses and the air raid, do you ever go, man, it'd be pretty interesting to play in that system with the skill set you had? I can see you running the zone read like it's going out of style.
Man, that's the stuff we did when I played in Canada. I spent 8 years in Canada, and we got in the gun and we spread people out. And I give Damon Allen, Marcus Allen's younger brother, played for Edmonton. He played up with the Edmonton Eskimos. And Damon they ran, and all of us did, but we all ran our run game out of the gun because we were in the gun so much. And then Damon started eyeing the defensive end. And when he'd chase, he'd pull it and naked bootleg. I'm like, well, I can do that. So I started copying Damon. And then guys would come off the hitch it, like the defensive back would leave his receiver and come over. So I started putting the guy on a fade on the outside and a flat by the slot route. So for the slot receiver. So it sort of became an RPO.
Yeah, y'all inventing RPOs out there, man. That's great.
We're doing RPOs back in like 93, 92. And it was like, it wasn't in the playbook. It wasn't written up, but it was like, you know what? If your guy leaves you, I'm just going to dump you the ball. Look for it. Yeah. Or we did what we called spread stack. We get under center for short yardage, and we'd stack our receivers. We had 6 eligible, so it was 3 over there, 3 over there. And if they didn't cover down, I just call quarterback sneak. But if they didn't cover down on everybody, just pop up, throw the ball out there, and there was those smoke screens to the wide receivers. And like I said, it wasn't stuff that was like written out in the playbook. It was just kind of backyard ball.
Yeah. And it's amazing how I think for the end of time, stuff that when we were kids used to get in the dirt and draw up in the backyard will eventually make its way to the highest level. And we're seeing RPOs in the NFL now. I mean, on a consistent basis. It's amazing. But, Doug, another thing, and we always talk about in the pocket and awareness in the pocket and having feel in the pocket. You're not a guy that's 6'6", shocker to anybody. I'm not either. And you look at guys that aren't as tall as the Tom Brady, the Russell Wilsons, the Drew Brees. Can you talk about being able to see through those windows? Because it's not just hey, there's a guy open, I'm going to put it, fastest point between the straight lines A and B. You're almost having to throw somewhat off platform and through windows like that Assassins movie when they're curving bullets. I mean, I don't think people really have a real unbelievable understanding of how difficult that is.
So many times I can picture throws I made where you just drop down, not even sidearm, almost I mean, completely sidearm down by your hip to slip it past a defensive tackle or somebody rushing where there was a little gap and a guy's running and under. The short throws become for the short quarterback. The short throws, once you've dropped and you've looked upfield and you're coming down to your check down, the check down throws were the toughest. You always had to kind of move around someone to get them the ball, things like that. The keys for short quarterbacks, number one is understanding coverage and anticipating where people are moving to, and being able to keep your focus up the field through all the mess.
Yeah.
Still lock in down the field and see through it. I think because at times it looks like a wall and you're thrown out of a well. I always thought the further separation I could keep from the line, the better off I was. So a lot of times, and I didn't even realize I was doing it. Coaches give me a hard time about not taking a disciplined drop, because when there's timing routes, you've got to take that disciplined drop and hit that back foot, and it's gone. But sometimes on the upfield routes that you're letting it develop a little, I would just shuffle backwards. I might take 9 steps. I might take 7. I don't know. But whatever I'm doing, and I didn't realize I was doing it intentionally, it was kind of an instinctive thing.
Yeah.
It was just kind of finding those little windows and drifting a foot to the left or a little to the right and trying to find it. And I never realized that's why I did it. And it just, I couldn't always explain it to the coach, and I'd get a minus on my grade, but I completed an 18-yard in.
I love it. It's amazing. It's like, listen, great job, but don't do that again. Great job, but don't do that again.
Well, you're getting too deep. You're putting pressure on our tackle. Look, if the defensive end comes flying back, I'll step up.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
What's it? Bill Belichick always said to his defensive ends, the worst place on the field is to be behind the quarterback and then the other goal line.
Yeah, we're called running the hoop, and you know all about that. But as well, I always say, everybody talks about, oh, this guy's such a great scrambler, or he's so evasive. I mean, I love not only watching guys like Lamar that can break the pocket and do that stuff, Patrick and all those guys, but watching a guy like Mac Jones work in the pocket, or Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or Eli Manning. These guys evade from inside the pocket. I mean, watching Roethlisberger have like 3 guys hanging off of him evading, because again, I mean, they built him in some factory.
I was always jealous of him for that. He just have guys hanging. He'd have a stiff arm down here and a guy hanging on him, and he's like flicking like this 45 yards. That's unbelievable. But you talk about movement in the pocket. Yeah, Tom is, and Peyton Manning was a technician at it too. But the touchdown pass Tom threw to Gronk in the end zone, the longer one where he waited, he moved around, and it was kind of almost a scramble drill for Gronk. He moved off his route. But just his little subtle movements and sliding in when he has to go down the field, a lot of times that stuff doesn't happen on schedule. You got to hang on the ball a little bit. And Tom just sliding and moving, working the pocket, helping his offensive line. And he's not the scary thing is he's not a threat to run, right? Yeah. So if he could have run like a 4.8 40.
He may have been 10 for 10, Doug. He may have been 10 for 10 in the Super Bowl.
Because they play coverages against Tom. They would never dare play against other quarterbacks that could take off and run.
Oh, without a doubt. And, sometimes I think the DC against Tom Brady up there, just like they have a hat they're passing around with a bunch of paper in it with coverages on there. They're like, listen, we can't have any tendencies. It's just like rolling the dice. Just like, all right, DB's coach, pick one in the press box. Like, all right, here we go. Hey, we got this one, because that
Has anyone tried an 11-man drop without even rushing him?
Hey, why not? It's almost like the old, they used to do in college basketball, where if you weren't as good as the other team, there was no shot clocks. You just dribble it around the whole game and up to score
4 corners.
Yeah, why not just literally play 4 quarters on them? We'd like to announce Doug Flutie's accepted the head coaching job no, just kidding. That's great stuff. Wouldn't be surprised if they tried it. But, Doug, I do got to ask you, while I have you on here, kind of diverting the conversation, the Hail Mary play. And I know you've probably described it so many times you could paint a picture of it with your eyes closed. But just for our audience, with your first time being on here, take me through it, as the intricacies of it. And then did you see the guy catch the ball, or did you know he caught the ball just by the reaction? And I will let you, the floor is yours, Doug Flutie. Play the Flutie flute, brother.
I actually did some interviews and pieces on the Hail Mary again. It was the 35th anniversary last year. And I saw a new camera angle and saw something I didn't know before. I'll fill you in at the end on that. Basically, 3 receivers to the right. We call it 55 flood tip. It's supposed to be a drop back protection. Tight end's in protection. A back's in. It's a max protect thing. And I realized there was an inadvertent whistle, and I realized it was going to be a 3-man rush. So I told the tight end on the backside, just get wide and go long down the backside. I might roll right and throw back. With the inadvertent whistle, there was a guy that was lined up over Gerard Phelan in the slot and decided, you know what, last second afterwards, he went out and got over Kelvin Martin, our wide receiver on the outside, because Kelvin had more speed, which allowed Gerard to be the guy that got down the field first. I kind of dropped back and tried to buy time and roll right, which scares the heck out of our offensive line because I don't tell them that, right? Yeah. We almost get a holding penalty by our right tackle, who was Mark McDonald, NFL guy. So I get out to the right, and I kind of wanted to peek backside, but a linebacker had scraped around. He's starting around. I'm like, the heck with this. I got to turn it loose, and I throw for the end zone. I see the ball, the trajectory of the ball, and I'm kind of trying to look down there, and 2 guys jump up. The free safety's in position to make the play. Backside corner comes over to help out. They jump, they bump into each other. Ball goes through them cleanly. Gerard catches it, falls to the ground. And I just see a bunch of bodies fall to the ground. And there was a little delay, and I saw an official's arms go up. I just started laughing my tail off and running down the field.
You started laughing. I mean, yeah, just a joy of
I just started
you
smiling.
You were like the girl in
to...
the Sound of Music on the out like on the hills of Austria or whatever, just roaming
now,
around.
All this stuff goes on the field, right? I still didn't know for sure who caught it. I assumed it was Gerard. I ran into our strong safety as I was heading towards the locker room. I said, who caught it? He said, Gerard. And I'm like, of course he did. We get to the locker room celebration. All that stuff goes on. And on the bus, the tight end, who was the backup tight end, it was in the game, Pete Casparillo, comes over and says, we had a shot on the backside. We had a shot. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Now that's, everybody was open, right? Everybody's
always open.
So fast forward 35 years, and I have a picture of it on my phone now, but there was a different camera angle, and I just see the tight end in the picture. Now, remember what I said about the safety going up to make the play, and the backside corner drifted across and bumped into it? There was no one home on the backside of the field. Tight end is all by himself at the 10-yard line. If I had pulled up and looked back, I would have thrown it. He would have walked in.
Well, oh my goodness, that's so how crazy was that seeing that for the first time?
I called Pete right after I saw it, and he said, "Yeah, I know. I told you I was open." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah, but if you had thrown it to me, I would have dropped it or something."
Well, you made the right choice. You made the exact right choice.
Oh, it was. I'm not going to complain with the way it went. It went the right way.
Did you realize? And again, I think this may be an impossible question to answer because I think it may be hard to realize, like the magnitude of that moment, like right after it happened, or did it take a couple of days, or even heck, Doug, did it take a year for you to be like, wow, how long did it take?
We had a big come from behind win at Alabama early in the year. We've had last second victories, 2-minute drives down the field. We actually completed a Hail Mary pass at the end of the half against Temple that season that looks identical to the Hail Mary play against Miami. Identical. So when it happened, we went, it was just a big win and another last second victory. We're fired up. We're on the bus. We're smiling. We can't stop smiling until we go. We land at Logan Airport in Boston. Now, Boston is not a college sports town. It is a pro sports town. You can't find an article about college football or, how people live in the SEC. Everyone.
Oh, yeah.
They don't, it's not like that. And there's like 10,000 people at the airport when we're landing, going nuts. They're like Gerard and I, and actually my, his now wife and my now wife, they took the 4 of us and shoved us into a police cruiser. We couldn't get through the crowd. People were like it was Beatles stuff, right?
Man.
And we get in we're in the cruiser heading back towards Boston College, and we look at each other and go, this is a little bigger than we thought. It's about a 2-pounder. It's about.
I love that.
Yeah. So that's when you realize how big a deal it was now. And I think what made it a big deal was it was Thanksgiving weekend. It was still the Friday after Thanksgiving, and it was the most watched game of the year. So everybody watched it, and it was Miami. Like, people loved to hate Miami at the time. it was like they were the big bad boys, all that, and we were the underdog Cinderella story thing, and that's what made it bigger than life.
Yeah, to quote the kids from nowadays, the city was litty when you guys landed it. That's no, that's awesome, Doug. I really appreciate you sharing that. I know our audience is gonna love that. And I do got to ask you before I let you run, the expanded playoff. Saying 2023, it's looking like it's going to 12. I just want your thoughts on the playoff in general. As a guy that went through the old era of not calling you old, Doug. I'm not trying to age you on here.
No.
Just that I'll say the previous system. Just what do you think about the playoff in general?
I love it. I think it's going to be great. I mean, we all love the NCAA tournament. We all love the hoop tournament, and seeing the brackets and going down the line, and everyone's got that chance. It gives more teams a shot because you can almost have a perfect season and not get in. There's the strength of the SEC where, if things don't work, one SEC team's going to get in when maybe there were three that were the best in this, 3 out of the best 4 teams in the country.
True.
Or, with what Clemson's doing, all of a sudden it's becoming the halves, the Bamas, the Clemsons, the Ohio States are there every year, and there's one spot rotating with other teams, because all the young kids want to go to the championship. They want to go play for a championship, and they see this is the route. And so from a recruiting standpoint, all that. So when you go to 12, now it's going to open the door. Now it's going to open the door to the type of team that we were when I was in college. We out finessed people. We threw the ball when other people weren't throwing it. The teams that, I guess you go back to the Boise State days of maybe out tricking a team and being able to just be a great football team and play and win and find ways to win. Those kind of teams aren't going to get included in the top 4, but they can make a run, and it's great. I love it. The argument against it was, well, the kids are going to school and there's going to be extra games, and how do we fit those in? And
Yeah.
I think it will really liven it up. And the tough part is from an alumnus standpoint, they want to go to all the games. They, if they're all at bowl sites or on the road, you're going to pick one. And, you make that big try, unless you're some multimillionaire guy that's going to do it every weekend and charter planes and stuff like that. But, all of a sudden you're playing 3 games or 4 games, and instead of one bowl trip, you're making 3 or 4 very expensive trips for a lot of the alumni.
Yeah, no, it's so interesting, and it is. The matchups are going to be incredible, and now you got Texas and Oklahoma going the SEC, all this other stuff going on. It's absolute madness. But Doug Flutie, I knew it was going to be amazing. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here. Tell everybody about Flutie's Flakecast on Sirius XM. Man, you've had some big time guests. I would expect nothing less from Doug Flutie. I mean, Tim Tebow, Brett Favre. I mean, I'm wondering when you're going to have Alexander the Great on. He may be dead, but
he's coming next week.
Yeah, nice. Still reach out to him.
But yeah, Roger Staubach, Warren Moon. It's mostly quarterbacks, and we just talk a little bit of X and O, just having fun, but more storytelling and talking about mindsets of quarterbacks, things of that nature. The way we approach the game. I could talk to Roger Staubach all day.
Oh, I bet.
I mean, it's just so much fun to talk with guys that were my idols. But we start back up the end of August, run parallel with the football season again. We took a break throughout the summer, and we're starting back up the end of August.
Awesome, man. Well, Doug, I really appreciate it, man. Enjoy surf stuff out there, my friend. I see you got the Tom Brady, Walter Payton jersey behind you. That'd have been a hell of a backfield. But
my first touchdown pass in the NFL was to Walter Payton when I was with the Bears, and I finished up my career with Tom. So that's a pretty good bookends at the end of my beginning and end of my career there. So
yeah, that's like a movie. But no, I really do appreciate you coming on, man. I know our audience does as well. We got to do this again.
You got it. No problem.
Definitely. Make sure you guys subscribe to the Jboy Show on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Go to thejboyshow.com. Grab some of that merch. For Doug Flutie, I'm Jake Crain from the Jboy Show. And like the Hail Mary pass when it left Flutie's hand, we're going, gone.
The Jboy Show is produced by David Cohn, Technical Director Dave Hammock, Creative Director David Culbertson, Audio Engineer Feyzan Shareef, Production Assistants Blaine Crain and Kyle Orr, Executive Producers Jake Crain, Vince Thompson, Steve Chamberlain, and David Cohn. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, thejboyshow.com, for updates regarding our newest apparel and merch designs. Win the water cooler with the Jboy Show.